Alright, so I just disembarked from one of the most exciting rides of the past summer. LA Freeway, the ride. It's fantastic, terrifying experience. Honestly, not as good as Pittsburgh Freeway, the ride. That one's pretty underrated too. That was an exciting experience. So right now I'm in what used to be the world's largest parking garage. Because, as you know, the day's off to a great start already. And of course I'm at Disneyland. Now, this was the park. I mean, it was the first theme park I went to. The park that first got me into parks. Now I prefer to visit small, lesser known parks most of the time, but who doesn't love Disneyland? You have to come back to it every once in a while. So this is my first visit in I think, more than 5 years. I think 6 or 7 years. So last time I went, Tower of Terror was still Tower of Terror. It'll always be Tower of Terror to me. There was no Star Wars. Check that out first. Hopefully I beat the crowd by enough time. Already pretty crowded. California Adventure has a nice entrance and all, but I really miss the tacky California letters and the massively out of proportion Golden Gate Bridge. I learned about queue theory at business school. Basically, when you have a bunch of lines and one to pick from, you always happen to pick the slowest moving one. You know what I love about Walt Disney? He was a train enthusiast. No, I wanted to head to Star Wars first, but it's hard to resist jumping on a quick ride on Thunder Mountain. Seeing all these props around gives me the urge to go back home and play Planet Coaster. Oh, that's Thunder Mountain. Probably the best mine train out there for the scenery. Now, I prefer Colorado Adventure at Phantasialand. That one's a bit more thrilling, but in terms of theming, you can't really outdo these rides. There it is, Galaxy's Edge. Ah, yeah. I know a lot of people have criticized Galaxy's Edge, but this is just a massive nerdgasm. So it just got off Rise of the Resistance. So I feel like it had a lot of potential that it didn't quite live up to. I played the roles of the engineer, so I sat in the very back, so my view of the front simulator part wasn't the best. And yeah, I don't know, I really feel like they could have done better with that. I know that's some cool theming. Alright, so my breakfast was this Ronto wrap. Like a sausage cheese thing wrapped in pita bread. Looks alright. So Rise of the Resistance, which is like the main ride, is doing virtual queue only. I did just do the other ride earlier, and it was alright. They were trying to do the whole mission space thing where to make it interactive, but I really felt like they could have done better. Splash Mountain, the greatest ride ever based on a racist movie. Glad I got on Splash Mountain early. This ride doesn't have the best throughput. It's practically no line when I got on, and it's already back up to here. You know, the funny thing is, the Disneyland version of Haunted Mansion never looked really haunted. The Florida one looks a lot more haunted, but that's more of a Victorian mansion. Of course, this one they had to fit in New Orleans Square. Personally, I love New Orleans Square. I love how it has these little inlets, you know, like an actual cool city that we don't really build in America anymore. So fun fact about the real New Orleans, the architecture was more influenced by the Spanish than the French. Yeah, the Spanish did colonize New Orleans at one point. So if you do walk around New Orleans, the buildings here will look more like, say, Madrid than Paris. So if you do come to Disney, make sure to bring sunscreen, because this entire side of the park is out. Oh, and considering, you know, how white I am, it's got to be a priority. You know, you'd think it would be easier to find sunscreen at Disney, considering how many white girls love Disneyland. Gotta get protection from the sun. Yeah, definitely use the single rider line for Indiana Jones. It's kind of hidden. You usually need to ask the people at the front, but if you walk up the exit, you can do single rider. Saves a lot of time. This ride scared me to death as a kid. I think anyone can easily see why. That ride is still one of the most incredibly detailed you'll find anywhere. Matterhorn single rider line, also an absolute lifesaver. I can't wait to ride a historically significant, well-themed ride with bad arrow transitions. Say hi to Harold for me. Tomorrowland. Space Mountain's down, but at least we can look at the old Rocket Rods track. So I finally found sunscreen, that's the good news. But all they had was this, a glow sunscreen with sparkles. Now, I don't really care. It's Disney, I want to look fabulous. Now the wait for Pirates is spilling out all the way there. Luckily this line's tolerable to wait in, so this ride has an insane throughput. What is it that dead men don't do again? I forgot. One thing I do have to applaud them for is adding more stuff to Space Mountain's queue. It used to be you had to wait on these switchbacks, which were far more numerous, and you could have to spend up to an hour on them. Get really boring because there's not much to look at over here. So I'm glad they added some actual theming to the queue. So the queue for Space Mountain was actually not that bad. It was supposed to have 50 minutes, but it definitely was not that long. That or it just went by very quickly. I hope that this is a reference to the original concept for the ride, because the original concept for Space Mountain was something like the Matterhorn, which would go in and out of the mountain called Spaceport. So I hope this is a reference to that. Autopia. Nothing like a ride built in the 50s meant to get people excited for the new innovation of freeways. I'm sure everyone who's driven down an LA freeway knows that people in the 50s got this exactly right. I had one of these monorail sets as a kid. Yes, as you can tell, I am a badass. Disneyland, as it originally was in '55. Not many e-ticket attractions. Up here you can see Lookout Mountain. Interesting story behind that. That was literally created with the amount of dirt left over from construction. It became the later site of the Matterhorn. So some of you are probably wondering, are you that guy in your group of friends who when you go to Disneyland, you annoy everyone by listing off facts about Disneyland? Maybe. I love the entry plaza of California Adventure. It's great to see what LA would have looked like before it got ruined by freeways and zoning regulations. And no, I'm not gonna stop making fun of LA. You know what looks even better than a structure made to pay homage to the architecture of LA? A massive, weird, sci-fi looking structure. Incredicoaster. Haven't been on this since it was Screamin'. Glad they actually gave it somewhat of a theme. Okay, if there is a theme behind Screaming in California, then 12-year-old me would have a field day with that. So on Incredicoaster, the re-theme is nice. I kind of miss the old soundtrack though. Alright, so one note about Guardians, this thing is not a capacity monster. Neither was the original Tower of Terror. But they didn't really improve it in that regard. Some Mission Breakout. I mean, it's a cool re-theme, and I like how they randomized the drop sequence, but honestly, I prefer the original. Hate to say it, but just can't beat the original dark theming. Yeah, I love this building, right with that lamppost. It's weird, it's like there's nothing above that lamppost. Like if there were something, it would be painted like an invisible color to blend in, like a green. Maybe we should call it like go away green or something. This will be my first time doing soaring around the world. Done over California. I don't know exactly what the Around the World show is like. Never watched a POV, so this will also be kind of a new experience for me. So with getting off soaring, the change to Around the World was cool, but I do wish they solved the issue with this ride. The main problem I've always had with it is that if you sit in the back row, it kind of spoils the illusion with the convex screen, as in it doesn't go out far enough. Well, enjoyable still. But that's always been my biggest issue. There's one thing that no trip to Disneyland is complete without. It's one of these. A tiny thing for $5, but it's the novelty that counts. Never been a big fan of the Cars movies, but like the area is so well done. As well as the ride too. That's pretty good. Love riding Radiator Springs Racers at sunset. Alright, I love Toontown. Alright, low-key, I'm really excited for this. An e-ticket attraction starring Mickey. First of its kind. I'll definitely come back for this one. And as you can see, there's clearly no big building here. Some more shots of Galaxy's Edge at night. So it does look a lot better lit up, but almost any park does. Yeah, like I said, the theming's quite nice. Wasn't a big fan of Smuggler's Run. Didn't get on Rise of the Resistance, but not too sad about that. And I'm sure it's great, but dark rides are not really my thing so much. Except for Disney dark rides, of course. Nothing like being around New Orleans Square when it's lit up at night. Okay, I always say Disneyland's really mainstream, but still, you can't not love this. Alright, so I just closed with a ride on the Matterhorn with the fireworks going. That is the best possible way to close on a ride.